Welcome back to another UFC fight prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the prelim fights for UFC Fight Night on ESPN Plus, Barboza versus Gaethje. So without further ado, let's get to our first fight on the card. So in our first fight on the card, we have in the bantamweight division, Alex Perez versus Mark De La Rosa. So you got two former flyweights coming up to the bantamweight division. Two young flyweights now at the bantamweight division. Two solid flyweights right here are former flyweights. But to get to the point, Mark De La Rosa has some pretty good abilities, decent striking, solid grappling, real good cardio, real good work rate. But then Alex Perez on the other end pretty much does everything De La Rosa does, but better. And also he has fought the better competition and has fared well better against the better competition. So even when you look at the stats, like you pull up their stats on Fight Metric, Alex Perez throws more strikes than De La Rosa. Even when he's throwing more strikes, he lands at a higher clip than percentage than De La Rosa. With his grappling, he shoots more shots per minute than De La Rosa, and his accuracy was like pretty much everything. He does more than De La Rosa, and he does it at a higher accuracy. And even when you don't look at the stats, I see Perez is a much better fighter than De La Rosa, or at least a clearly better fighter. Like just like that little bit. I'm not saying like he's just so much better than him that he shouldn't be in the cage with him. I'm saying like you could clearly see that one fighter has been doing more, has been looking better, been looking sharper. And I see that fighter is Alex Perez. I think he has more power in his punches than in his strikes. I think he can outvalue De La Rosa, and I think in the grappling he can out scramble, outwork De La Rosa and secure the better positions. I just feel like Alex Perez is going to be able to really just dictate what's happening in this fight. He's going to be the one controlling this fight, and that's why he's going to win. So in this fight, I have Alex Perez via decision. Now on to our next fight we have in the women's flyweight division, Marina Moroz versus Sabina Mazo. And you got the 22-year-old Mazo versus the 26-year-old Moroz. Sabina's just debuting in the UFC in this fight, and Moroz, I think, is on her, basically about to reach her 4th or 5th year in the UFC. Had about 6 or 7 fights in the UFC, up and down kind of record. Had some good wins here, good and some bad losses on that end, and really been kind of stuck in the same spot. And as far as how they match up, they're really kind of similar fighters. They're both tall, lanky, scarecrow-looking, slender fighters. Like they had that little arc in their neck and stuff. Don't really have the most power, but they do a lot of volume, a lot of work. I think with Moroz, she intentionally doesn't throw the most power because she wants to have a high volume and, use her cardio to her best ability by, just conserving, not really loading up on much stuff. Just throw a whack of volume, throw like 400 strikes a fight, but not really commit to nothing. With Sabina Mazo, she kind of doesn't throw as much as Moroz, doesn't have as good a cardio as Moroz, but she definitely has more the tension. She's trying to really hurt you and put you out of there with her shots. It might not look like they're the best power behind it. I mean, she might not have the best power, but you can tell that she's trying to really put her force into her punches. And really with Mazo, it's not really her punches that are her most dangerous tool, it's her kicks. With those head kicks, her head kicks are very lethal, and she's very sneaky at slipping those head kicks up there. And I think she might be able to have success against Moroz. I think it's going to be the most success, but I think she will have a good chance to land those head kicks. It's Moroz defense isn't the best because she's so focused on throwing output that she's not always focused on defense. That's why she loses a lot of times. It's not just because somebody just run through her or something, this and that. I think when you're doing so much offense, you're not really focused just on defense. Like you're just focused on putting output. She's not as defensively sound as she could be because she's out there throwing punches. When you're throwing punches or throwing kicks, at the same time as you're landing shots, you're open to be countered or open to be landed on. She's not really focused on defending herself. But all that's really besides the point as far as this matchup right here. Normally I would lean to Marina Moroz just based on experience. Like they're similar styles. She's a little bit more experienced, had experience in UFC. But I've seen something in Sabina Mazo that I liked. In her debut fight, unlike a lot of other fighters, they go for the easiest fight. And I think she went for pretty much the hardest fight she could get in her debut. And for a 4-0 prospect, like a prospect that was going to go on and do stuff, and actually is still a solid fighter in Bellator right now. I think Alejandro Lara, and she fought her when she was already 4-0. And she was just debuting in for Alejandro Lara. So that's what good ability, a good trait. And she went on to beat Alejandro Lara. So you fought not just some but you fought an actual prospect in your debut who had 4 fights. And you went out there, challenged yourself in your own debut, and went out there, got the victory, and really put on a good scrap. And started to dominate the fight down to 2nd and 3rd. So she shows that's a real good trait by her. And she's not looking for the easy fight or the easy stuff. And also she has a Muay Thai or karate, not karate, but Muay Thai or kickboxing background. So I think that's going to favor her well in this fight. And to really even get close to the points and stop drifting off on this fight right here, I just like that ability of Mazo. I think Moroz, she's so focused on output that's going to allow Mazo to get off and land the harder, effective shots. And just like in kind of her fighting against Angela Hill, where she probably outlanded Angela Hill, but Angela Hill was landing the more effective punches. And that's why she won. Just by drawing volume, not really committing those punches. The person that's also drawing volume, but they're actually putting power behind that shot, so actually putting intention behind that shot, that opponent is going to win. And Mazo, I feel like her striking is pretty solid, and she's such a young fighter. And even in her last fight, she showed so much growth, and I think she's going to show even more growth in this fight. And that's going to lead me enough to kind of edge the fight. I think she'll be putting more emphasis on her punches, more emphasis on her kicks, more emphasis on striking, and be the pressuring fighter. And that's going to factor over Moroz's volume. So in this fight, I got Sabina Mazo via decision. Now on to our next fight we have in the bantamweight division, Ray Borg versus Gaethje Kenney. So I looked up Gaethje Kenney. He's actually pretty impressive to me. He has a wrestling background. He's not like no solid, super phenomenal wrestler, but it's always good to have that wrestling background. So that's solid on him. He has some pretty good striking, pretty good grappling. He's not just some matter of fact. I think Ray Borg had like 3 previous opponents for this fight card right here, but they all fell out. And then this is actually probably Gaethje Kenney's actually a better opponent than all the people they were originally suggesting for Ray Borg. So this guy can challenge Ray Borg in a lot of areas. But looking at his fights, I'm impressed, but at the same time, I don't think he's quite on Ray Borg's level just yet. Like, he definitely be out there and give Ray Borg a challenge. But I think Ray Borg's experience and his grappling is still going to be significantly better than Gaethje Kenney's. And where the fight is on the ground, Ray Borg will have the advantage. I think Gaethje Kenney's best advantage might be on the feet, but I don't think he's that immobile or nothing that he can avoid getting away from the grappling of Ray Borg, because it's not like he's a Justin Scoggins or anybody that's going to be very like fleet-footed and moving around and hard target for him to get a hold of. I think, and also Gaethje Kenney, I don't think he's really going to be running not running, but using that footwork to avoid. I think Gaethje Kenney's going to be right there for him. He's going to be one to fight, going to be one of the feel that he can mix it up with in the grappling and the striking. So he's going to be right there for Ray Borg. I think Ray Borg will just have the advantage in the grappling. I think that's where he's going to take it. And I think that's where he's going to win the fight. He's going to be on the feet. I think Gaethje Kenney might have a slight advantage, but on the ground, Ray Borg will be able to get it to the ground. He'll be relentless, and Gaethje Kenney will be right there for him. He will secure takedowns. And in the grappling strength, I think Ray Borg is just a notch above right now. And I think I see a back-and-forth competitive fight, but once Ray Borg starts to break him down, I see a late submission in this fight. So in this fight, I have Ray Borg via 3rd-round submission. Now on to our next fight we have in the middleweight division, Kevin Holland versus Gerald Meerschaert, or Gerald Meerschaert. But look at this fight. Gerald Meerschaert, but he had some good performances in his career, but it's been up and down, been like a lower tier middleweight. He has solid striking, he has some power in his hands and his kicks, so he's not just like no pillow puncher. He's a solid fighter who can certainly hold his own with anyone in the division. So this is really a tough fight for Kevin Holland. What I see with Gerald Meerschaert is really not the best, like the most phenomenal striking. And with Kevin Holland's 6'3" and his length and his versatility and his unorthodoxness, because he has solid striking, he has that reach, he has that length, and he has the unpredictability about him. And also he himself has some solid grappling as well. I think he can hold his own with Meerschaert's grappling. On the feet, I just think the volume and how he mixes up his arsenal and is kind of unpredictable for his striking can really freeze up Meerschaert in this fight. The speed, the length, and this using all that together to mix it up on Meerschaert on the feet. And I think he could probably secure some takedowns of his own on Meerschaert. It's really just all the athleticism that I think he still kind of got that unbeaten type of vibe around him, even though he's not unbeaten. Because I guess he really only lost to Thiago Santos in that fight. And his fight was his debut in the UFC. And he still had at least some good notes from that fight. So he still you got to kind of vibe that he just has that aura that he doesn't feel, he feels he's going to be great, or he feels he's going to be a top fighter. And it's a lot of times that just carries fighters over, like just mixing his versatility, unorthodoxness, and the volume, and the ability that he can hold his own with the grappling, and probably even initiate some grappling. So, frustrate Meerschaert on feet, which allows, when people get frustrated, they get off that game, which allows Kevin Holland to really get up under his skin with that, get him off the game, which will open up for takedowns, open for grappling, in which the grappling starts finding success, that open up opportunities for the feet. And I just think, it's really he has the key in his pocket in this fight. That's what I'm saying. He has the key in his pocket to dictate the pace of this fight, where it takes place, what's happening, and never allow Meerschaert to get comfortable. Whereas Holland, his fight gets on. You've seen in his previous fights that he starts to let his hands go, starts to let his strike go, and that doesn't bode too well for Meerschaert. And I feel like it's going to be a decision victory for Kevin Holland. Just too much volume, too much versatility, too much different angles, too much different strikes, too much different, basically volume. So in this fight, I have Kevin Holland via decision. Now on to our next fight we have in the featherweight division, Enrique Barzola versus Kevin Aguilar. So I was looking at Kevin Aguilar at first. I was finding old fights of him, and I was impressed, but I still didn't think he could beat Barzola. Now I found some of his previous fight, like right before he came to getting his shot in the UFC, and now I've seen him as a real big threat for Barzola. Then I think I saw his fight against a guy named Damon or something, something like Michael Damon or one of these fights. No, Damon Jackson, that's the guy's name. I saw him fight Damon Jackson. And I saw Damon Jackson had a good bit of success getting him down with takedowns. And he wasn't even that aggressive with his takedowns. And Enrique Barzola is very aggressive with his takedowns. He pressures you and he goes for takedowns. He has phenomenal gas tank and he'll go for about 40 takedowns a fight. And if Kevin Aguilar is giving up takedowns when a guy is only shooting about 1 or 2 takedowns a round, he's giving up like 50% of those takedowns. And that's not going to really factor too well for him. It's not Barzola's striking might not be as good as Kevin Aguilar's, but I think he can certainly hold his own. And he's a tough, durable guy. He can take a punch. I think he's really going to be able to get in and get up under Aguilar and be in his face and keep securing takedowns. It's going to be a competitive fight, and Aguilar will have a shot. He certainly has a real good shot with that power, his striking, and he also has solid grappling of his own. But I think Barzola just, that wrestling pressure and that relentless pace, that's really hard to beat at this level. You got to really beat a fighter like that, you got to be truly be of the upper echelon or just get a lucky decision. But I feel like Barzola just going to be up and under him the whole fight, get in his face, going for takedowns, either holding him against the cage or securing takedowns and just wearing him out. But a competitive fight nonetheless, but I see Barzola's wrestling and pressure being the factor that edges the fight for him. So in this fight, I have Enrique Barzola via decision. Now on to our co-prelim headliner we have in the lightweight division, Ross Pearson versus Desmond Green. So Ross Pearson's career has been on a down skid over the last couple years. I think he got one win in between like a 4-fight losing streak. Now he's on like a 1 or 2-fight losing streak. And Desmond Green's been up and down. A solid fighter. He's been the champion of Titan FC, I believe. Was a top 10 fighter in Bellator's lightweight division, or was the 145 division. It was probably the 145 division back then, or when he was in Bellator, because he was a lighter weight, moved up. He might have been lighter than that now. In fact, yeah, it was 145 back when he was in Bellator. But yeah, Desmond Green, this backstory aside, a solid fighter. He does very well at controlling distance, landing strike, not being hit, making fights be a low output for both fighters. He's like that Floyd Mayweather effect. I'm not saying he's like Floyd Mayweather, when those type of fights when they kind of lower the output because they turn into a point fight. They can make any fight a point fight, and it makes it a very gritty fight where they just win by the slimmest of margins, unless they just that much better than you are. But in this fight, I feel like that's what he's going to do against Ross Pearson. Ross Pearson, really, when you look at his career, he hasn't done the best against fighters that are very mobile, very hard to hit, very slick. And Desmond Green also has some solid wrestling, so he can mix it up with Ross Pearson and beat him in a lot of areas. He's going to be beating Ross Pearson to the punch, using foot movement, making himself a hard target, outpointing Ross Pearson. He's quicker than Ross Pearson, fleeter, like fast foot, better footwork than Ross Pearson, better wrestling than Ross Pearson. I think he really could just beat Ross Pearson in every area, except power and UFC experience. But other than that, Ross Pearson's on a down skid. Desmond Green's going to be able to make himself a hard target. And even if Ross Pearson gets too aggressive and gets frustrated, he could just go for a takedown. I think when Ross Pearson starts overcommitting to it, or overloading up on his strikes, when he gets frustrated, that's going to make takedowns real easy. I think Desmond Green can beat him, really, like I said, anywhere in this fight. And this is a confident pick, and I have Desmond Green winning this one via decision. Now on to our prelim headliner we have in the women's strawweight division, Marina Rodriguez versus Jessica Aguilar. So Jessica Aguilar, she's really on the twilight of her career, it seems. And Marina Rodriguez, I think, still basically undefeated, she's 10-0-1 in her last fight, a draw with Redhead. I'm forgetting her name right now. But she just fought on the last card. Randa Marcos. I'm forgetting these names, but there they go, pop right back in. She's coming off a draw to Randa Marcos. And when I watched the fight live, I picked Randa Marcos prior to the fight to win. And then watching the fight, I feel that Randa Marcos won that fight. Watching that fight live, I feel Randa Marcos won it. But I just rewatched it again without the bias of me actually picking Randa Marcos in that fight. And I think Marina Rodriguez won. Marcos took her down, but mostly just controlled her, but didn't land any strikes. Then on the feet, Rodriguez was just, in the first round, Marcos did work, but the second and third round, Marcos really didn't do much with her ground control. She's kind of held on for dear life. And then when Rodriguez got up, Rodriguez was just piecing her up and just turning her nose red, turning her face red, and just marking her up. So, as far as I'm concerned, that kind of similar to this fight. I think Jessica Aguilar is approaching this fight still and want to take it to the ground. Jessica Aguilar is several-time Jiu-Jitsu world champion or something like a FILA world grappling champion. I think back in 2010. I think at like the black belt or like the brown belt level. So she has solid grappling. I think that's where she's going to want to take it, especially with a long, young fighter like Rodriguez. But Rodriguez showed in the Marcos fight that she's scrambling. She might not have the best jiu-jitsu or the best this or the best that, but she's young. She can scramble. She can scramble. She has the energy, and she can land a lot of value. So she'll be able to hold her own on the feet. On the ground. Be able to scramble her way back up and keep landing strikes. Use that range, throw a lot of volume, tag her opponent up. And I think at his age, Jessica Aguilar might not have what she had in the past. Like her prime has passed her. Her top of her game has passed her, but it could be kind of sad that she was fighting the best people. She was fighting Claudia Gadelha and just fought Weili Zhang. So she's been fighting some killers. So you can't say that they just made her look bad because she was fighting killers. But I think at this point, I think Rodriguez is going to be able to hold her on the feet because that fight against Marco, she showed that she could scramble back up to her feet. She could hold her on the ground. She might not be really attacking too many submissions off her back or really that much danger off her back, but she at least showed that she can be composed off her back, get back up, and go back to work. And that's really, I think that's going to be what she's going to need in this fight. So she can get back to her feet and outwork Aguilar. So that's how I see the fight going. If it goes to the ground, she'll be able to get up. But all in all, I see Rodriguez outworking Aguilar to a decision. So in this fight, I have Marina Rodriguez via decision. And that concludes my fight predictions for the prelims of UFC Fight Night on ESPN Plus, Barboza versus Gaethje. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and come back for more videos. Peace.